I hope everyone's well, and I'm just waiting for maybe 3 or 4 more people just to jump in online. I think we've got the majority of people on, and then we're going to get started with tonight's Pro Player Pathway. So guys, just while we're waiting for everyone to jump on, just a little bit of housekeeping again, just if we can remember just to keep our microphones on mute, just while we go through our Pro Player Zoom monthly meeting. Also, we should have had Danny Clark on from Bolton Wanderers tonight, but unfortunately, because he's down in Sydney, because of a change of schedule down here, he's unable to make the call tonight. But the good thing is we're still going to do our Pro Player Zoom meeting as normal for the next 50 minutes to an hour. We have got a lot of questions come in. There's a lot of updates we need to update you with, but also we're going to be doing a bonus one next week where we will have Danny and Dale online as well, and they'll be answering those questions that we've got sent in. So I think we've nearly got everyone online. Just check we've got everyone all muted. All right, guys, so we'll get started. So first thing we're going to cover off tonight is, some of you may or may not be aware, but we're going to be sending you guys out in the next 30 days some packages for all of the players. Now, we're going to be sending everyone GPS trackers and heart rate monitors, and we're going to spend the next probably 15, 20 minutes just going over the GPS trackers and the heart rate monitors, what they're for, why we're actually using them, and also why the players are actually going to be using them. If there's any questions whatsoever, guys, around the GPS, the heart rate trackers, please feel free to drop it in the chat box and I'll answer those questions for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen with everyone, and hopefully everyone can see my screen once I give it a share. So we've partnered with Stat Sports. We've spent the past probably 5 to 6 weeks researching all the different GPS trackers out there. We finally agreed a partnership with Stat Sports, who, believe it or not, actually based in Liverpool in the UK. And we've partnered with those guys. So we've gone out and actually purchased the GPS trackers and the heart rate monitors for the players. So these are at no additional cost to any players or families. It's actually, we have decided to add these into the program because they're an invaluable part of their Pro Player Pathway journey. We were going to introduce them 6 to 12 months into the program, but we thought we'd get them now and get the players rolling on them because they're so important. So I'm just going to play a short video, and hopefully everyone can see this video and listen to it. Just a little bit about Stat Sports. And then I'm going to go into a little bit more information around these GPS trackers and also the heart rate monitors.
Let's go! Let's keep going!
Make yourself faster. Make yourself fitter.
Let's do it!
Make yourself go further.
Come on, one more time.
Yes, let's go! Come on! Win it back! Win it back!
Make yourself a player.
You're so fast!
Make yourself impossible to ignore.
Yeah. Sick.
With the Stat Sports Apex Athlete Series.
Okay, guys, so that was just a little bit of information about the GPS trackers. A little bit in regards to the cost and the value of them. So they cost us just over $600 with the heart rate monitors. Now, there's an app that comes with the GPS tracker, and we are going to send a link out to you guys when you get them sent in the post. They will get delivered to your home address or your best postal address. We will do a demo evening where we'll spend 30 minutes on Zoom online to be able to answer any questions that you've got around the GPS trackers. Obviously, we will need a device, so a phone or an iPad for the GPS tracker to be connected to. And there is an app that will show all the results and the recordings from the GPS tracker. Also, we will have access to that stats and data. So we will actually add you in. So Ben, who's our project manager at Pro Player Pathway, he'll be in touch with you all individually to connect your GPS trackers and apps up, and so we can connect to them and get that data. Also, as you can see on the screen there, is the heart rate monitors. Now, with the heart rate monitors, we'll take you through them as well, and we'll explain how they work and how they connect in with the app and how they connect in with the GPS tracker. Now, a little bit and some explanation around the GPS trackers. One of the important things that we discovered in the Premier League was making sure that the players were fit enough and fast enough to compete in a game of football. So whether the players are 10 years of age, all the way up to 23 years, which is the age that we cover on the Pro Player Pathway, we've been able to cover this off completely. So what we will do is for each player individually, boy or girl, from the age of 9, 10, all the way through to 23, we'll be able to set each player a target distance we're looking for them to cover in a game. So if you're 17 years of age or older, you should be covering anything between 10 to 11 kilometers in a game. The English Premier League average and the WSL average is just over 11 kilometers, and it can vary slightly on position that you play. Obviously, you wouldn't expect a goalkeeper to cover that distance. A goalkeeper's distance is around about just under half of that distance. So we'd look for a goalkeeper to cover in or around or just under 5 kilometers. The amount of sprints for the outfield players we look is 18.2 per game. So this is one of the areas that we will look to cover as well. Obviously, if you're only 11 or 12 years of age, we wouldn't look for you to cover as many sprints in that time period because you play in a shorter duration. But again, we will work that average out and we'll send that information to make sure. So it's a good way to see if you are close to those distances, and also, are you close to those amounts of sprints per game? If you're not able to, get up to them, we can actually then help you to getting onto them. Now, just in relation to some of the sprint speeds, and you should be able to see it on my screen, I'll make it a bit bigger. So just to give you an idea, and this is useful information for some of the players, that when we look at amateur versus professional, we would say amateur is NPL or A-League. So that's where we would put amateur. So it sort of sits between NPL and A-League. And then professional would be that English Premier League, Spanish La Liga level. So as you can see, for an attacker, we're looking for sprint speed of around about, from a professional point of view, is 9.64, okay, or 9.20 MPS. So MPS just stands for meters per second. So what we're looking for is, for an attacker, if you're an amateur player and you're 16 years of age or older, you should be able to cover 7.58 meters per second in a game. And that's how the speeds are measured with these GPS trackers. If you're a midfielder, it should be 7.06, and defender is 6.87. Now, we will have an average chart for our players. So if anyone's 9 or 10, we will have all these figures worked out. If you're 11 or 12, there'll be a separate number for you guys. 13 and 14, and then 15 and 16 and upwards will be equivalent to that amateur rating. Once you get to 18 or older, we're looking for you to hit those professional levels. This is a good way to ensure when you get your opportunity to go to Europe for your scholarship opportunity, not only do we know you're covering the right distances, but also your sprint speeds are up there, but also you are actually doing the right amount of sprints in a game as well. So then that way it doesn't become an issue, because the last thing we want is players in the next 12 to 18 months going over for trials, for scholarships, and you falling down on fitness or sprint speed or the amount of sprints. This is something that is quite simple, but unless we know what you're currently doing, there's no way we can attack it. And this is why we've decided to go out and invest in these GPS trackers and heart rate monitors for everyone. So they are due to arrive into Australia within the next 10 to 14 days. Once they arrive in the office in Brisbane, for those guys who are lucky enough and based in Brisbane, you can drop in and come and collect them from us, or we'll get them out to you. If you're not in Brisbane, we'll get them straight out, express post to you, and then we'll get them onto the players and we'll start getting that information recorded straight away. Now, also one of the other big things is the heart rate monitor. And a lot of people ask why we have the heart rate monitors and why they're important. Well, they're important for a couple of reasons. One is to make sure that players aren't doing too much and pushing themselves too much, but also just to see where their resting rate sits as well. So as you can see on there, the intent is to maximize the player's fitness level, but also we try and minimize the fatigue level so they can expect an optimal performance on a game day. So what we'll do with the heart rate monitors and their GPS trackers, we'll monitor all of these stats and information during the week. And then that's going to enable us to ensure on a game day that the players are going to have that optimal peak performance on a game day. So then that way they can go as long or hard as they want in training. And in that way, when they go into a game, they're going to get the maximum out of the game. So that's just a little bit around the GPS trackers and the heart rate monitors. Now, if anyone has got any questions on the GPS trackers or the heart rate monitors, if you can drop those questions into the chat, and I'll have a little look and see if we can help you with those questions. And I'm just going to stop the share just so I can put myself back on the screen. And I'll just check. Okay, so first question we've got: are players allowed to wear these in MPL official matches? Yes, they are. So as you would have seen on the picture, there's a vest that they wear and it goes inside the back of the vest. Then you put the jersey over and they are allowed to be worn in official MPL, A-League, divisional. There's no rule around wearing a GPS tracker as long as it's under your jersey and it's concealed and it's secured. So the vests that we provide you as well, the vests I think are worth about $80. You will get a vest initially. You can purchase more vests if you want, and we'll give you the link for that. And we've got a discount code as well, just in case you don't have time to wash and get them clean. They do get a little bit smelly if you're using them all the time. So we will set up a link and a discount code for you as well in relation. How frequently do we wear the vests? So this is a great one. So we'll send all this through to you, and Ben will send all this through to you. The more you wear it, the more data we get for you, and the better it's going to be for us, because that data is going to come through. So if you're an MPL or a SAP player and you train 3 nights a week and you also play a game of a weekend, we would look for you to wear that in every training session and every game, at least for the first 4 to 6 weeks, just so we can get some really, really useful information. Also, it's really good for us to see what distances you guys are covering in training and how hard you're being worked in training. Because I guarantee some of you will have some really good coaches out there who are really pushing you in training. But I'm also aware there's some coaches out there who don't actually push you hard enough and are not pushing you to the level that you need to do. Right, next question we got. Hi, Ray, I'm 11. What should my average speed per game be as I play as an attacker? So we'll send all them through to you. We have got all them written down. I believe it's roughly in and around 6 to 7 meters per second you should be covering in a game, but we will get all those averages and stats. So there'll be a chart that will come out and it'll be a document, and you'll be able to link it to your age, and then you'll be able to convert to see where you need to be at. We'll include that chart into everyone's football plan, and you'll have a separate page on your football plan. So this is what we said about your football plan being an evolving document. It's something that's growing all the time. And then what we'll do is we'll add that information onto your football plan. Also, we've got a great question. Do we also get all the data and stats? So yes, so guys, you'll actually have the app on your device. So we depend on you guys connecting your GPS tracker to a phone or to an iPad, a device that you guys can install the app to. And then After your sessions, you'll connect the GPS tracker to the device and it'll download all your stats. We'll then be able to grab all of your stats and information because we'll give you an invitation to join us as a group. And once you've got that invitation, any data you save to your device will automatically get uploaded to us. So not only will we have your data, but you'll also have your data as well. And it's a really good way and a good idea is that you guys get to see it live in front of you once you've downloaded it. So you can see how hard you've worked, how hard maybe you haven't worked. And look, we understand there's going to be games where you might be playing a lower division team, a team that's maybe bottom of the ladder, and you mightn't work as hard, but this will give you the motivation to make sure that you're always reaching as high as you can, regardless who you're playing against and regardless how many minutes you get. Now, is there any more questions around the GPS trackers or heart rate monitors? If you want to drop them in, guys, we're going to leave this open for the next 2 or 3 minutes before we move on. So if anyone's got any other questions, please feel free to drop them in. All right, would you recommend players to wear them in training too, or just matches? Yeah, so 100% guys. So we want you to wear them in training and matches. So initially, we would say so we can get some really good solid data. The first maybe 4 to 6 weeks, wear them for every training session and every game. Then if you want to, you can maybe just utilize them for game days. And then potentially towards the end of your season, so around September, October time, we would encourage you then to maybe start wearing them for 3 or 4 weeks again during training, just so we can have a look at the middle of your season and then also have a little look towards the end of your season and see how your trainings differ and just to see how hard you're working. Because some of you will be working hard enough. Some of you won't be working hard enough. And this is a good way for us to identify. If you wear them in training and on game days, we can identify if you're working hard enough for your age group. And if you're not, that's fine. It's no point complaining about it as a club. It is what it is, but we will help you pick up that extra work. Should we wear it in individual trainings? Guys, again, this is a great one. So I'm going to challenge some of you, not all of you, but some of you guys who are not fit enough and not doing enough distances, you will be given a challenge. So it could be you need to do 2 to 3 beat tests a week. How do we know your beat tests are getting done? It's dead simple. You've got to put your GPS tracker on and we need to see those results from your beat test with the GPS tracker. So if you've had your GPS tracker on whilst you're doing a beat test, it will be there. We'll get all the stats and data and we know you're doing your training. We need you guys to be accountable and to take responsibility for this. And again, we're not looking for you guys to expect mums and dads to be responsible for this. If you're 9, 10, 11 or 12, you're still responsible for your GPS tracker, making sure it's charged up, making sure you've downloaded the data. If you need mum or dad to help you with that, that's cool. But you guys from the young ages all the way through, you need to start taking responsibility and looking after these. Next question. What about if you already have one? For example, the catapult one does the same thing as the other one. Well, guys, we are sending everyone one each if you are on the Pro Player Pathway. We need you to be on our one. And the reason why we need you on our one, because our software is set to us. So we need you on the Stat Sports one. Now, if you've got your own one, currently, I would maybe advise if you want to keep it, great, but maybe possibly an option could be, you could maybe look to resell it to another teammate and maybe get a little bit of money back in your pocket because we're going to provide you with these. These are yours to keep. We don't need these back. These are going to be yours to own and keep. And it's a gift from us at Euro Football Star as part of the program. We want them to have you. Is the tracker able to detect when players are subbed off in a game? So GPS trackers work just like a GPS in your car. So it knows when you've stopped moving and obviously the signal. So if you are subbed off and you sat on the bench, it will show it as being inactive and it will just basically show you as not moving. So it will pick up if you've been subbed off. Now, the best thing to do is If you get subbed off, but you have rolling substitutions on your team and there's a chance you might go back on, don't touch your GPS tracker, leave it in. If you've come off and you know you're not going to go back on, so if you play, I don't know, let's say under 18s MPL and you've been subbed off with 10 minutes to go, you can take your jersey off, take your GPS vest off and turn the device off. Next time you turn it on, that's when it connects to your device and that's when you download the information. Again, guys, we're going to have a demo video for this and walk you through how to do it. They are quite straightforward, but the first initial setup's just got to be done correctly. Again, someone's asked, should we wear them to extra training sessions? Again, yes. Wear them as much as you can, guys, especially for the first 4 to 6 weeks, because it's going to really give us a good gauge and a good indication of what you're doing, what you're not doing, how much you are running in a week, what your sprint speeds are, and how many sprints you're actually doing. So it's a great indicator. Do we have to wear both the GPS and the heart rate monitor during the sessions, or just one or the other? So that's a great one. So what we will do is we'll set you a task with that one, but we'll probably get you to wear the heart rate monitor in one training session a week. So if you know there's a particular session that's a real physical session, it could be like your Tuesday session, a Wednesday session, that's where you normally have your heavy load. We'll get you to wear the heart rate monitor on that particular night. Also, on a game day, we will look for you on 2 or 3 occasions to wear the heart rate monitor on a match day as well, just to record what your heart's like in a game. And also it's a good way of us analysing how much or how little you're doing in a game. And also to make sure you're not working your heart too hard as well, because that's a very important thing, to make sure we bring up your fitness levels properly to ensure that you're fit enough for the games. All right, guys, I don't think we've got any more questions for the GPS trackers or for the heart rate monitors. So what I'm going to do now is we got some questions in for the coaches from Bolton Wanderers, from Danny and Dale, to answer. And as I said, they're unfortunately not available to join us tonight, but they are going to join me next week, and we are going to do an additional meeting or a pre-recorded meeting where we will send them answers out to you. But I thought it'd be quite useful for me to answer these questions as well. And we've had, I think, in the region of about 8 or 9 questions come in. So I'm going to answer them with my academy head on when I was working back in the UK. And it'll just be interesting to see the difference in the answers. And then what we will then do is we'll open up an opportunity for the last 10 or 15 minutes for anyone who's got any questions whatsoever around the pro player pathway. Obviously, there's a lot of players in this group now, and you're all at different parts of the journey. You're all at different levels of the pro player program. You've all come in at different times, but it'll be a good opportunity for 1 or 2 of you to see each other, and also for you to come on the screen and ask a question or two. So I'm gonna answer this first question. So the first question we got was from Mayor also. What do you look for in a player when selecting people in academies? So the first thing that we always used to look for when I was working back in the Premier League, it would have been attitude. And that's the first thing we used to look for. If players didn't have the right attitude off the park, we normally wouldn't entertain them to come in for trials. So that was one of the big things we used to always look for, was having the right attitude. How do you look for that? Well, what we would do is we would do probably a list of about 2 or 3 different activities with players before they actually got to go on a pitch. And we would actually monitor players and their parents in the rooms where we had them, just to see how they behaved, how they spoke to each other. And that was a really key indicator to see how a player was. 9 times out of 10, if the player's attitude was right off the park, it meant when they were on the park, they'd have the correct attitude for learning. And that rolls into the next part, was the reason why we used to do that, because we were looking to see how coachable players were. And we wanted players wanting to learn everything we had to show them and teach them. Question from Finn Platts. What do you think makes UK academies so good? I think what makes the UK and the British academies so good, and more so the English academies, I think is the amount of money that the English Premier League and the FA put into the clubs and the clubs themselves. And I think there's a lot of buy-in, but also there's a lot of experience. So some of these clubs are over 150 years old. So during that period, they've learned a lot of things of what to do and a lot of areas of what not to do and how to develop players. What small changes make the biggest impact to your game? So that's another question from Finn Platts. So some of the small changes, believe it or not, are some of the things that we've just been speaking about. So we're talking about GPS trackers, we're talking about heart rate monitors. So just something as simple as recording what distance you run in a game and how fast you can run in a game and how hard your heart's working in the game can be the difference in those small changes that can make the big impact in your game. So just being able to record some of these small bits of information is so key. And that was one of the things that we discovered. I think the GPS trackers originally went into the UK system, into the academies, probably about 15 years ago, was when the first GPS trackers went in. Now they've been made available for $400 or $500, so anyone can afford one and anyone can utilize one. We got a question from William Hovling. What are your best tips for standing out during a trial with a professional academy? I think one of the big ones that we used to look for, and this was one that I not only seen at Leicester, but I also seen on a study visit at Liverpool. And one was communication and introducing yourself to the players around you. So it's hard when you're going in for the trial and you want to try and stand out. But one of the things we look for was if you're a central midfield player and you're going into a game, one of the things we would look for is, would that boy or girl going into that trial go and introduce themselves to maybe one of the attackers, one of the defenders, and maybe one of the wide players, just to get a name so you had a bit of an understanding on who they were. And that showed us a willingness to work with that team, even though you didn't really know the players. One of the other things was communication. And we used to always look to see which player, boy or girl, was communicating effectively on the pitch. So you don't need to know the other 10 players around you to be a very good communicator. And what's being a very good communicator? It's simple. It's talking. It's communicating with hand signals, showing hand signals, stopping, showing signals where you want the ball, and just trying to talk to your teammates. Even if you don't know the teammates' names, communication was one of the big things. That was a great question from William Hovling. That's a great one. How can you stand out during a trial? All right, we've got one from Axel Clock. What's the most common errors footballers come across in their career? I would say players in the younger years come across a lot of errors in football, and those errors are normally the best way of identifying weaknesses. Probably some of the most common ones is not actually realizing that it's a team sport and it's not me versus you if we both play for, say, Manchester City. It's about working as a team. And the problem that I discovered was when I was at Leicester with a lot of the 12s and 13s, it was too competitive with inside the squad sometimes. They felt like they were really competing against each other. Once we removed that and we got them playing as a team, we actually found that they developed themselves as individuals better. So that was a common issue that we had, and it was more so in the younger age groups. I think with the older age groups, we didn't see it as much. Great question, Axel. All right, the next one is from Jack Dendel. What do players do that makes them stand out in trials? I think that sort of leads back to the questions from William Hovling. So communication is a key one. If you're in a trial and you're showing the coaches who are watching you or the academy director that's having a look at you, that you are confident enough to communicate with these group of players you've never met before and are willing to have a go at talking to them. That's one of the most probably likable things as an academy director or as a coach that you want to see. Probably another one as well is, and it leads back to the GPS trackers, the biggest thing that we used to always look for as well is what players do when a team loses possession. So whether you're in the trial and you've lost possession or the players around you have lost possession, what do you actually do to respond. And what we were always looking for was a willingness to recover behind the ball. So we weren't ever looking for players to try and win the ball back. We were looking for players to recover behind the ball. The more numbers we got behind the ball, then we were in a better position to win the ball back. And that was one of the key ones. And if we used to see that, and also good communication, 9 times out of 10, that would be enough to get an invitation back to come and trial on a longer period and to try and prove yourself over 4 or 6 weeks. Great question, Jack. All right, next question. My question is, what aspects of the game do you look for in an 11-year-old, and does this change with age? That's a great question. So what we look for at 11 years of age, obviously, we're not looking for the finished article. That's something that we'd look for when players are 19, 20, 21. But we look for that communication again. We look for that attitude and having a positive attitude. So we just spoke about when we lose possession and we lose the ball. So that willingness to get back in and recover behind the ball rather than trying to look to try and win the ball. And I think it's just having the ability to work as a team player. I think if you show those aspects early on, when you're involved in a club or trialing, it's gonna stand you in good stead. All right, next question is from Zach Olsen. So after just attending the recent 4-day camp conducted by Bolton, what do you do as coaches or see the major differences between Australian footballers and those you deal with in the UK? And what's the most important thing we can work on? So that's a great question. And believe it or not, it was one that I answered to someone a few days ago. One of the big things that I see the difference between Australian players and the UK players, when players get to 15, 16 and 17, there's a huge gap, there's a huge gulf between players. But in the younger age groups, there's not a lot of a gap or a gulf. So we've taken squads back to the UK and beaten academy teams who are 12 and 13. But when you get to 15 and 16 and 17, it's so far and wide apart. And I think one of the big reasons is, believe it or not, is just the fitness levels. And I just don't think in the older age groups in Australia, we train and play enough and hard enough as well. So this is one of the areas that we've addressed tonight with the GPS trackers and the heart rate monitors. We really want to ensure that when you go across for your opportunity, you don't get turned away because you're not fit enough, or because you're not fast enough, or because you're not putting enough sprints in during the game. Because how disappointing would it be as a player or as a family if you tick the boxes technically and tactically, but your fitness lets you down? And that's something that's actually over a period of 10 to 12 weeks, we can fix fitness straight away. We can fix sprint speed straight away. And also the amount of sprints that you do in a game, we can fix that quite easily as well. It's no different than some of the objectives that you guys are going through now, whether it be scanning, receiving the ball, world-class passes, striking the ball, delay, deny, restrict if you're a defender. It's the exact same premise. It's that one tool that we have to refine and that we have to fix. So that was a great question from Zach. And that's probably one of the differences that I see is players just struggle with the fitness side of it because we don't train enough, unfortunately, in Australia, and we don't actually play enough. Now, we recently just went on tour to Melbourne and to Perth, and we're going to be going off to Adelaide in the next week and a half. And we've already chosen from our objective testing our next set of winners who are going on tour with us next year in 2024, and they've won trips worth $8,000. Now, the players that have won the competition, and it doesn't surprise me anymore, but the players that have won the competition are the ones that can get to 11 or 12 on a beat test, can do 50 juggles of the ball, can nail the De Bruyne test, and have got all that covered. And these guys that come out top, when we do a little bit of research and we look into these players and their backgrounds, we discovered a couple of anomalies that they've got. They all had athletic backgrounds, so they're either doing cross-country or running for school. They're part of a private academy, and they're also part of club football. And being part of club football doesn't just, you know, mean you've got to be SAP or MPL. we actually got some of those winners who actually play divisional football. So those guys who max out our objective testing and win those $8,000 trips to Europe are the guys who are ticking those 3 boxes. And that's something that we will address with you as players, that we will say, if you're currently at a club, that's great, that's a big tick. Are you involved in any athletics or running or cross country at school? If not, we can help you with that now with the GPS tracker. You don't have to be part of a running club to do it, but we'll set you a challenge to get some more kilometers under your legs each week. And also, are you part of a private academy or some sort of private coaching? And if not, you don't necessarily need to go out and spend $100 or $200 a week to join an expensive private academy. We could help you fill it in other ways. So there's lots of free pickup games you could do with friends. You could go and play some five-a-side, some futsal. So once we start to get into your football plans over the next 6 to 12 months, we will address a lot of these areas to make sure you tick all of those 3 boxes. If you tick all of those 3 boxes already, I guarantee, and you know, and mums and dads will know, that you're probably in the top 10% of your players in your squads and your teams. And the reason why is because you're putting in all that effort and time to do that and to get there. Now, guys, that is all the questions that I've got on my sheet. If anyone would like to ask any questions and come on live, if you would like to reveal your camera and just fire a question away, and I'll try my best to answer it online. So if anyone wants to jump on and just jump in and ask a question, and I think we've got about 10 or 15 minutes to go, so we'll see how many questions we can get through. If you've got something, you know, you might think it's not really necessarily relevant, but just guys, throw it out there and let's see if we can get some more information for some of the players out there and some of the other parents. And if you don't want to come on screen as well, I'm happy if you want to fire any questions into the chat box as well. And I'm happy to answer them there. Hey guys, how are we?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good. Can you introduce yourself for the crowd so everyone knows who you are?
Hey everyone, I'm JJ / John, but JJ Paul, yeah. But anyway,
John,
my question,
where are you from, John? And what
Australia.
team do you play for?
I play for Hong Kong Hawks at the moment. Located in Brisbane, and I live in Australia.
Brilliant, mate. Fire away.
So my question is, how many hours a week should I be spending on the theory side of the game of football?
How many hours a week should you be doing on the study side of the game?
Yeah.
That's a great question. So I would say you need to maybe look to do some football research. And this is something that we are going to actually share out with you guys as well. A really good resource for football is BBC Sport. So that's the British show. If you go to bbc.co.uk/sport, and I actually have a football section. Now that football section covers Premier League, Champions League, European football, like Italian League, La Liga. I would say 10 minutes a day minimum. Even if you're 11 or 12, if mum and dad will give you access to the internet, it's good just to scratch up on what's going on in the world game. Also, you will get as well on that website, they have some really, really great topics of interest in regards to football and football development. And it's not just Manchester City have signed this player for 100 million. There's a lot of really good information in there as well. So I would say anything from an hour to an hour and a half a week is enough, because obviously a lot of you guys have enough going on with school, training and actually playing the game. But also if you can chuck in a game of football a week that you can watch, so maybe watch a Premier League game back, even watch the Premier League highlights on Optus. I mean, again, I don't know if you guys are aware, but you don't need to be registered with Optus to watch the highlights. You can actually just go to YouTube and just type in Premier League highlights. So once the Premier League starts back in August, you can actually sit down with your son or daughter or yourself as a player, and you can watch the highlights back of the Premier League. That's a great question, JJ. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, anyone else got any other questions? You want to jump online? I'll see there's a few in the chat box. So I'll just read out some of these in the chat box. Okay, will you guys do training sessions in Melbourne in the future? So great question we always get. So as you know, the Pro Player Pathway is a remotely based program. However, we have come to the decision that we are going to be visiting all the major cities, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, and Perth on a regular basis, at least 2 to 3 times a year. So what we're going to start to do is, as this program grows and we increase the amount of players, we will have opportunities where you can come out and join us. Also, not only to just join us on the park and fields for the session, but also an opportunity where we'll hire out a room where you guys can come in and we can assist you as well with any issues that you've got, whether it be GPS tracker, whether it be decisions over your football club that you're going to play for next season, what you should do in the off season, what you should be doing in the summer. But also, guys, don't forget, we are completely contactable. You can contact Ben at any point during the week or of a weekend, and we'll always get back to you during the week, Monday to Friday, within 48 hours. If it's the weekend, it might be a bit longer, but we'll always get back to you, and we can always hook up a Zoom call and myself and Ben can connect to you. Hi, Ray. I'm not able to use the camera, but I've got a quick question on how we deal with game pressure, such as trials or penalties. Thanks, Jack. All right, so that's a great question. So the best way you can combat going into trials and pressure and anxiety and being stressful, even if you know you are going to stay with the same club team next year, I always advise players just to go out and trial with other clubs, just for the experience of it. Even though you've got no intention to sign for that club, one, it gives you an extra opportunity to get your GPS tracker on and go and record some more stats for me. But also, it gives you an opportunity just to go in understanding that, well, actually, I'm not actually trialing to sign for this club, but it actually teaches you how to relieve that pressure. And the more you practice something, funnily enough, the better you get. Now, the hard one is penalties. This is the one that you just cannot practice unless you're in that environment. So my advice would be practice penalties with your friends down at the park, down at your local club. But it's a really hard one to replicate, because unless you're in front of a few hundred fans, like you might be on an NPL game, or once you get up to playing professional football, how would you practice taking a penalty in front of 70,000 people? You don't, unless you're in that environment and you're doing it. So it's a real tricky one. Next one, you've spoken about improving players' fitness levels and sprint times. Does this program do anything to target a player's technical ability, should it be needed? So yeah, 100%. So that's one of the things that we do. So the first thing we attack is when you do your first match analysis with us. Hopefully you've done that. If not, we'll be coming around to doing that. That's where we look at your technical, tactical, social, and physical elements of your game. And that's where we correct any technical aspects of your game. So some of the things we would look at would be things like receiving the ball, making sure you've got the right body shape. So these are all the things that we would cover. So once you've gone through that match analysis, and that was from Harrison Cord, you will get that technical information. And that's one of the big things that we do. That's one of the things that we do that no one else does, is giving you that technical feedback. That's something that you're not getting at clubland. And that's what we work on. And that was one of the areas that we identified in that one-on-one, is giving you that one-on-one feedback, and also designing your objectives to help you fix that technical aspect of your game. Right, next one. What if we miss our game or training? Will it affect our data and stats? No, it won't, guys. It's fine. So what we'll do is, if we're tracking you for 4 to 6 weeks and you miss one session or one game, we'll just do an average and we'll know where you're at. However, just to give you an example, in the UK and back in Europe, if you forgot to put your GPS tracker on, it actually went down at the academies in the UK that you actually didn't attend training, or you didn't actually play in that game. And if you got 3 strikes with that during the season, you get called in with your coach, and you'd also get called in with your technical director. So guys, the same thing's going to happen here. If we ask you to record your game stats and your training for a 4 to 6 week period, but you miss it on 3 occasions, and we don't sort of get an understanding why then we'll actually ask you guys to join us online. Just one, to make sure that you know how to set up the tracker. Two, that you haven't got any issues with it, but three as well, to making sure that the players are accountable. So this is what we're trying to encourage, even the younger ones. So this goes out to the mums and dads. I know we've got some younger players on the pro player with us. We want the players to be accountable for this. We don't want you doing everything for them. We want the players to be responsible, and it's a good way of teaching them that accountability. All right, there's always a lot of debate about how much a kid trains and plays soccer per week. How much is too much for an 11 to 12-year-old? So there is a lot of debate and a lot of conversations that go on about it. But for those guys who've recently joined me on the Pro Player Pathway meeting and the presentation, part of my role when I was in the Premier League was I was part of the EPPP project, and it was a £1.6 billion project. We actually have the stats and the data of what you should be doing. So the theory, and we're going to go through this in your football plans individually, but I'll tell you what it is now. So it's the +1 theory. So if you're 12 years of age, you should be doing +1 your age. You should be doing 13 hours of activity a week. Now, 70% of those 13 hours should be specific to football, and the other 30% should be foundational based. So that's things like recovery running, swimming, it could be bike, it could be I play basketball at school. That can make up that 30%. If you're 15 years of age, you should be doing 16 hours a week of activity. And of those 16 hours, 70% should be football specific and 30% should be foundational based. So again, this is what I've said to a lot of the players and families. Don't expect this program to give you everything within the space of 3-4 weeks. This is a long process. Some of you are going to be with us for 6 to 12 months, and then we'll get you onto an opportunity to Europe, and then hopefully off you go. Some of you are going to be on the program for 3-4 years until we get you there, because some of you are a lot younger. And this is what we need to do, is we need to just do it step by step, piece by piece, and ensure that we guarantee success for the players. Apart from the beak test improving our fitness by a big percentage, what other drills would improve faster recovery? So the beak test is obviously to improve your fitness, but in regards to recovery, that's a great one. So on our next month's Pro Player Zoom meeting on the 7th of, I think it's the 7th of August. I'll just double check I get this right. It's on the 4th of August. I'm actually going to be coming live from Los Angeles in the US, and I'm going to be with an Australian who actually works at LA Galaxy, and he's going to be speaking to you guys about recovery. Now, we are going to include some of this in your program, and the recovery is a big part of it. And we will teach you 2, maybe 3 ways of recovering, and it's all around utilizing the heart rate monitors that we're going to be giving you, that are going to come out in the post. And we can actually teach you, there's 5 levels of heart rates that we get you, zones to go into. If we can get you into heart rate zone 1, that's where you're going to be the most optimal to recover. And without getting too sports sciencey, especially for the young players, we're going to cover this off in future meetings. But that is a great question. And again, this is going to be added into the program. So again, this is another piece to the puzzle that we add into your football plan. That's a great question. And we'll, as I said, we'll cover that off when I come live from Los Angeles in the beginning of August. Hello, sorry, we just joined late due to training. Where do we get a tracker from? So guys that have joined us late, we made an announcement earlier on that everyone gets a free GPS tracker and a heart rate monitor from us. It's something that we've just gone out and purchased for everyone. So there's no extra cost to families. We're going to provide these to you guys, and they will be posted out to you within the next 30 days. We're expecting delivery from the UK in the next 10 to 14 days. And then once we get our hands on them, we will send them out to you. If you're based in Brisbane, you're welcome to come and collect them from the office, or we'll get them out to you in the express post as well. So watch this space, guys. And also, if you've missed the beginning of the meeting, don't worry. We are going to share the link back to you. So everything that we've covered at the beginning will be sent on a link by Monday, and you'll be able to watch it back. All right, next question. And I think this will be our final one. If we get into a team in the UK, how do we get residency if we don't have an EU passport because we're from Australia? Great question, and this is a good one to finish on. So when we send you over for your scholarship opportunity to the UK, you'll go on a visitor visa. So you're just going into travel. If you get made an offer and you accept the offer, we then go through the route of getting the visa for you. So part of being on a pro scholarship in the UK is, or in Europe, would be that you need to do your education as well. So if you're a non-UK or European passport holder, you will need to do an education element, but also as part of being on a pro scholarship in Europe, you need to do education as well up to the age of 18. If you're older than 18 and you don't hold a UK or an EU passport, well, you still would need to do some form of study, because that's how we secure the visa for you, which enables you to train and play professionally, but also enables you to do your study and also to live and stay in the UK or in Europe as well. So guys, that was great. We've had some amazing questions. Thank you very much for everyone who sent them in. Again, apologies we didn't have Danny and Dale with us from Bolton Wanderers online. Those guys who did join us this week on the camp know how amazing it was, and you got to meet Danny and Dale and got some pictures and autographs with them. We will be firing them questions to Danny and Dale, and hopefully we'll have another invite link out to you guys to join us with Danny and Dale. If we can't manage to get them whilst they're in Sydney, we will get those questions asked, we'll record the answers, and we'll get them sent back to you on a video. But we're hopeful that we can get Danny or Dale to join us at some point next week. And the next time I see you guys online, we're going to be coming live from the home of Los Angeles Galaxy in Hollywood. And I look forward to seeing you all. And guys, if anyone's got any more questions or queries around the program, feel free to drop Ben an email, schools@eurofootballstar.com. And again, guys, stay safe. Have a great weekend. I know I'm going to be seeing some of you this weekend. And if I don't, stay safe and well, and I'll be in touch next week. Thanks, guys.